Welcome to Biblical Perspectives on the Holy Spirit. Today we will look at the Holy Spirit and the gifts of the Spirit, or the spiritual gifts as they are called. Last week we have studied the fruit of the Spirit. Now we want to learn what the Bible tells us about the gifts of the Spirit. To better understand the gifts, I think we need to understand what the differences are between the fruit and the gifts of the Spirit. First of all, let's keep in mind both the fruit of the Spirit and the gifts of the Spirit both have the same author, the Holy Spirit, but they are not the same. So what are the differences? Well, first of all, God does not require that everybody has all gifts, but God expects that all show the fruit of the Spirit. While everyone has at least one spiritual gift, no one has all the gifts. Spiritual gifts are given on an individual basis and differ from person to person. According to 1 Corinthians 12, verse 4 through 7, the Holy Spirit bestows the spiritual gifts upon whom He wills. But the fruit of the Spirit is the same in all Christians. Another difference is the following. Spiritual gifts do not automatically indicate a healthy spiritual life. This is very apparent in the church at Corinth, where certain spiritual gifts were exercised in rather unspiritual manner. But the fruit of the Spirit is a good indicator for a healthy spiritual life. Furthermore, the gifts are given to be used for the church and in the church. The goal of spiritual gifts is not self-edification. Spiritual gifts do not aim at my own spiritual life. They serve others and are given to benefit and bless others, and are given to build up the church and to foster the mission of the church. They are given for service. The fruit of the Spirit, in contrast, is given to become visible and effective in the life of the believer. The fruit of the Spirit is for the sanctification of the individual, so that we become more like Jesus. And finally, there is only one fruit, but there are many gifts. And some, the Apostle Paul says, are more important than others. Gifts are given by a gracious God out of love, so that we can reach others better. The good news is that God does not simply command us to fulfill His missionary mandate, to go into the whole world and preach the gospel. He also provides the means to accomplish what He has called us to do. We are not alone in this. But spiritual gifts are never given to impress other people or to satisfy our curiosity. Often we see the spiritual gifts more in terms of the Holy Spirit helping us to fulfill our spiritual needs, or to do special things, or to empower us to do mighty things for God. But then the gifts often are more Christian-centered than Christ-centered. They often focus more on me, on us, rather than God. I believe we need to recover a more God-centered understanding of the gifts, where we learn that God gives some of His special gifts to certain people in order to build up the church, so that He can carry on with His mission through us, and thus further the unity of the church. God can also use our natural talents for that purpose when we acknowledge that even such talents ultimately come from God, and when we prayerfully and submissively dedicate those talents to the service of God and to the church. But the spiritual gifts are not automatically identical with our natural talent. God can easily give gifts in areas where I'm not gifted naturally. The spiritual gifts have not ceased at the time of the apostles. God still is the same God, and the task He has given to His church is not completed yet. Therefore, I think it is necessary to distinguish the gifts and the spirits. And the gift of discernment is perhaps needed more than ever today. May God guide this church, and may God bless us as we employ the gifts He has graciously given, so that His cause can be fostered and strengthened and put forward, and that we have the joy serving God with the gifts He has given.